Welcome back. Today we are going to discuss another 25 questions of economy. First question is 51. Recent labor minister's data shows that unemployment rate is 45 years high. In this context, consider the following statements. This question is talking about 2019 NSSO report, which said that India's unemployment rate is around 8%, which recorded 45 years high. Okay, here you should know, because we are talking about unemployment, you should know what is the definition of unemployment. Okay, unemployment is nothing but a person who don't work even for 1 hour per week. He will be termed as unemployed. Okay, after knowing this, you should know which organizations releases the unemployment data in India. They are NSSO and Center for Monitoring of Indian Economy, etc. And you should know types of unemployment, definitions. If you know these three things, then you can solve any question on unemployment if they are asked in UPSC prelims. Now come to the options. A person is unemployed only if he is not able to get employment for 1 week. So it for 1 week. So it is wrong. If he is able to work for at least 1 hour in a week, then also he will be termed as employed. If you don't work for 1 hour per week at least, then he will be termed as unemployed. So this definition is wrong. Okay, only the NSSO provides data on unemployment in India. This is also wrong because there are many organizations. The famous one among them, the famous one is Center for Monitoring on Indian Economy. So this is wrong. So unemployment prevailing in Indian agriculture can be categorized as disguised unemployment. Yes, this is true. So answer is C. Now question arises, what is disguised unemployment? It's nothing, simple. It is agriculture field. Okay, and 10 workers are working in this field and they earn a profit of 1000 rupees at the end of agriculture season. Okay, so 10 people are working, right? So each one gets 100 rupees. Okay, because of unemployment in the economy, many people will come and work in the same field. Take example, if 100 people are working, but still at the end of the agriculture season you will get only 1000 rupees as profit. So each person will get now 10 rupees. It looks like agriculture is giving more employment, but in reality the profit will be very less, wages will be very less, and which is insufficient. So it is known as disguised unemployment. So answer is C. Now 52nd question. Consider the following statements. The primary sector is the largest employer in India. This is true because if you know what is primary sector or not doesn't matter. In this you should know only one thing, agriculture. Everybody knows that agriculture employs more than 50% of workforce of India. This is enough to answer this point 1. Primary sector includes not only agriculture, mining, fisheries, quarrying, like that, etc. Not enough jobs has been created in the secondary and tertiary sectors in India. This is true. How you can say this is true? Because agriculture is employing more than 50%, and agriculture is categorized as disguised unemployment. So why people are working in agriculture even though they are earning 10 rupees? Because not enough jobs are created in the secondary and tertiary sector in India. This is true. So answer is C. It is about the methods of calculating national income. In last video I have told there are three methods for calculating national income. One is expenditure method, another one is income method, another one is product method. So what is product method? It's nothing but total value of goods and services produced in India in a given period or in a year. So this is product method. Like this you will calculate national income. What is income method? It is compiling income of factors of production. Okay, factors of production means what? Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur, all these things. So like this you will calculate national income in this method. Now expenditure method. What is expenditure method? Government expenditure plus consumer expenditure plus investment expenditure. This is, if you know these three methods, then you can easily solve this question. Now come to the options. Expenditure method. Expenditure method, we'll see the option 1. The aggregate value of spending that the firms received for the final goods and services which they produce. Means what? It's saying that aggregate value of spending that the firms received. This is true. Means who is spending? Consumer or government or investor is spending. So this is true. And product method. What is product method? Final goods of goods and services, where it is the aggregate value of final goods and services produced by all the firms. Correct. So it is 3. And income method is 2. So answer is 1, 3, 2. B. Now next question, that is 54. Which of the following statements is incorrect regarding revenue receipts and capital receipts of the government? What is revenue receipts? It is nothing but tax and non-tax receipts which government gets. And capital receipts means debt and non-debt receipts. Okay, here you should know which all comes under non-tax receipts and which taxes comes under tax receipts, and what comes under debt receipts, what comes under non-debt receipts. Okay, now come to the options. Revenue receipts are non-redeemable. This is true because whatever the government gets as revenue, it no need to pay to any other organizations or person or banks. It is for the government itself. And firms are taxed on a proportional basis where the tax rate is a particular proportion of profits. This is true. Capital receipts reduce financial assets and create liability. This is true because, for example, if you have a home of which values 1 crore, values 1 crore, tomorrow you will go out and invest somewhere by borrowing from your friends, your bank, or from other organizations, and you will invest. So now your debt becomes 1.5 crores. Means what? Your value of home is reduced, and your liabilities increased by 50 lakhs. Okay, so capital receipts reduces financial assets and creates liabilities, and it is C is correct. Cash grant in aid from international organizations are included in capital receipt. This is wrong because it is included in revenue receipts. That's why I have said that you should know which taxes will come under the revenue receipts and which elements will come under the non-tax receipts. So answer is D, because they are asking which is incorrect statement. Now come to the 55 question number 55. Consider the following statements regarding human capital and human development. What is human capital? You should know. What is human development? You should know. Human capital and human development. Human capital is very narrow concept. It is very broad concept, because for example, you take human capital says that education and health is required to achieve high labor productivity. Okay, it says that it is required to achieve high labor productivity. Means what? Education and health are means to achieve high labor productivity, whereas human development says that education and health are integral to human well-being. It says like this because it believes that only if human can read and write, they can make healthy life. So it says that here education and health is treated as end in itself, because they are not becoming means to achieve something else. They are just end in itself in this concept. So these two concepts are different. Now we'll see the question. Human capital treats human beings as an end in themselves. This is wrong, because human capital, education and health and education are required to achieve increase labor productivity. Means what? These are treated as means, not in end in themselves. So this is wrong. In human development, human development perspective, the human beings are means to an end. No, this is wrong, because human beings are end in themselves, not treated as means. So this is wrong. Answer is D. Come to the 56th question. During the planning period in India, the public sector was given a lending role in industrial development. Which were the objectives behind this? So you have to understand that why government has established PSUs in 1952 onwards. There are various objectives. Main objective is to reduce regional imbalance, to increase employment rate, to increase per capita income, to increase welfare activities, to increase modernization, etc. Okay, now what are the objectives? Balanced regional growth, yes, correct. To provide goods and services for the welfare, correct. Welfare society without looking for the profits, yes, without looking for the profit. That's why our PSUs are facing huge loss even today, losses. So to create more employment opportunities, yes, so answer is D. Come to the 57th question. In which of the following manners investment in human capital can contribute to economic growth? We just now discussed about the human capital concept. What is this? Example, what we have taken: health and education. These are very important for increasing labor productivity. Means what? If you invest on health and education or any other like infrastructure, whatever, which will benefit human, which will act as means for human, these are means. Human, these are means to achieve high labor productivity. Okay, so there are many other health, education, infrastructure, technology, whatever it is, so can contribute to the economic growth. A healthy workforce provides uninterrupted labor supply for a longer period of time, correct. That's what we have discussed. If health is good and education is very high, then automatically high labor productivity will be there. The second option is the contribution of educated persons to the economic growth is more than an illiterate person. True. So answer is C. Which of the following is used by International Monetary Fund to measure economic growth of a country? GNP, NNP, GDP, per capita real income. Answer is GDP. Most of the organizations uses GDP only, not GNP and NNP or per capita income. GNP is used in what? Human Development Index. Now second question. 59th question. Which of the following could be the possible ways to overcome the energy crisis? Energy crisis. About the energy crisis we have spoke in the last video. One of the main challenges of power sector in India is it is dominated by the government sector, means PSUs. Example, NTPC. Okay, so what are the possible ways to overcome the energy crisis in India? Privatization of power sector. True. Solar energy could be promoted in tropical countries like India. True, because India is importing lot of coal. India is importing around 1 lakh crore worth of coal every year, means around 273 million tons every year India is importing. So but India is a tropical country which can harness its solar energy so that it can reduce dependency on coal imports, which will reduce India's trade burden and reducing transmission and distribution losses. This is also true. We all know that there is no proper infrastructure for transmission and distribution. That's why it's leading to losses. So answer is all the above. Next question is second question number 60. How is wholesale price index different from consumer price index? This wholesale price index and consumer price index are favorite topics of UPSC. So you should be knowing everything in and out of these two topics. Okay, so wholesale price index is released by whom? Office of Economic Advisor. Okay, and CPI is released by whom? Central Statistics Office. Okay, what are elements are there in WPI? Only goods. It deals with only goods, whereas CPI deals with goods and services. One of the major differences is WPI focuses only on trade between wholesales and businesses, whereas CPI focuses goods purchased by the consumers. Okay, these differences, at least these three differences you should know. If you know these three differences, then you can solve questions. Now come to the option 1. WPI focuses on prices of goods traded between corporation, correct, rather than goods bought by the consumers. Yes, this is focused by CPI. WPI includes services like transport, health, etc., but which CPI does not include. This is wrong because WPI includes only goods, whereas CPI includes goods and services. So answer is A. This is a factual question. 61. Regional rural banks have been created with the view of serving primarily the rural areas of India with basic banking and financial services. In this context, consider the following statement. The rural banks had legislative backing of the Regional Rural Banks Act 1976, correct. RRBs are sponsored by public sector banks. Not only public sector banks, it is also sponsored by, this is extra information that I am giving, central bank. 50% of fund it will sponsor, and state governments will sponsor 15%, and sponsor banks will sponsor 35% of funds. So this is also correct because they haven't used only. If they have used only, then this option is wrong. So answer is C. Next question. With reference to the concept of growth with equity, consider the following statement. Growth with equity means what? There will be economic growth. With that, wealth will be generated. This wealth will be distributed among the people of the country. Like how you will uphold equity. Now come to the options. It is assessed by the market value of goods and services produced within the territory. No, this is wrong because if you take this definition, this will be the definition of growth, but it will not say anything about equity. So this is wrong. It aims to promote both economic growth and social equity. Yes, this is correct. This is what I have explained here. So answer is A, which is incorrect means Answer is A. A is incorrect. Now, second question. Sorry, 63rd question. Which of the following committee emphasize on the small scale industries for promoting rural development in India? This is completely fact based question. So Karve committee is about SSI for promoting rural development in India. This is about MSME. This committee also speaks about MSME. This will talks about rehabilitation of SSI. SSI means small scale industries. So answer is A. Next question, 64th. Consider the following statements regarding market surplus generated during Green Revolution Phase 1 in India. Due to available market surplus, the prices of food grains decline relative to other items of consumption. This is true because during first phase, food grains such as rice and wheat production was increased. So when the food grains production increase, automatically demand for that will come down, so prices will come down because availability of food grain has increased. So coming to the option 2, it benefited the lower income group who spends large proportion of their income on food. This is also true. This option talks about which law? Engel's law. Okay. This law says that if the income increases, the proportion of expenditure on food items will reduce. Okay, so answer is C. Consider the following statement regarding the trade barriers. You should know what is trade barriers and non-trade barriers. Trade barriers is nothing but duty or taxes on import and export of goods. Okay, what is non-trade barriers? It's quota, production subsidies and export subsidies, health and sanitary and safety regulations and packaging requirements, all these things. So what difference you will observe here? Taxes you can easily predict, but for these things definitions are not defined, so it varies to the country to country, and you have to know this much idea to solve questions on trade barriers and non-trade barriers. Now come to the question. See the option number 1. Trade barriers refers to the tax imposed on the import of goods by a country to protect domestic goods. Correct? Trade barriers are more explicit in nature than non-trade barriers. This is correct. Just now I have explained, because trade barriers is clearly defined, they are taxes. Non-trade barriers are not defined. Quota varies to country definition, means its non-transparency is maintained in this. Likewise, packaging requirement varies from country to country, non-transparency present here. Likewise, sanitary issues varies from country to country, non-transparency presence here. So it is explicit in nature, it is correct. Trade barriers are imposed on the quality and quantity of goods, whereas non-trade barriers are imposed on the value of goods. This is wrong, because non-trade barriers talks about what? Quota, packaging requirement, sanitary issue, production subsidy, all these things. It means it focuses on quantity. Quota means what? Fixing the quantity. Indian government says you have to import only 500 products from China, not more than this. So it is based on the quantity, and European government says that this type of issue should not be in Indian mangoes. If Indian mangoes consist have some issues, then we will ban. So it deals with the sanitary issue, so quality. But tariff barrier is based on value of goods, so this is wrong. So answer is, when 3 goes, answer is A. Now come to the 66. Question number 63. Consider the following statement regarding modern industries during the British period in India. The progress of modern industry began during the first half of the 19th century. First half of the 19th century is wrong, because after 1850 only cotton mills and jute mills were established, modernized cotton mills and jute mills. So this is wrong. Next option is, Britishers developed capital good industries in India. Wrong. Britishers has always focused on agriculture to loot Indian farmers and on land for revenues, and encourage exports only. Raw materials they haven't developed, but Indian capitalists has established cotton mills, jute mills, iron and steel factory, etc. So this is also wrong. So answer is D. Now the second option. The second option says that Britishers developed capital goods industries in India, but Britishers has not developed. Britishers are only focused on agriculture for looting farmers and on land for revenues, promoted exports. Why? Because Britain wants raw material. Okay, discouraged exports of finished goods by imposing high duties on Indian goods. So these are the British developments in India. So it is wrong. But Indian capitalist has developed factories, cotton mills by their own money, and jute mills, iron and steel. Example, Tata Steel. So answer 1 is wrong, 2 is wrong, answer is D. Come to the 67th question. Which of the following goal were included in the every 5-year plan in India? To answer this question, you no need to know every 5-year plan. You should just be sensible when you are answering these type of questions. Growth. Definitely every plan will be included, because when you are planning something for the economy, means what? You are planning for the growth. If you are not planning for the growth for which you are planning is a question mark. So definitely growth would have been included in every 5-year plan. Next, privatization is wrong, because India went for privatization when in 1991 through LPG reforms. So this is wrong. So you can eliminate C, because here 2 is there, and you have to opt for one here, one here. So it should be A or D. So modernization, yes, just now we have discussed about PSU. Why they have established PSU? Because they want India to be industrialized, one of the industrialized countries. What is this means? Modern. So this is true. So where is 193? So answer is D. You no need to say other equity. Yes, equity also is there, because equality is different from equity. For equity, government has taken lot of steps. One of the step is reservation and self-reliance. Obviously green revolution is example, classic example. Now 68th question, consider the following statements. Bretton Woods system. What is Bretton Woods system? It is the system established by World Bank and IMF. Okay, re-establish the system of fixed exchange rate. True, that's why now it has been collapsed. And what is fixed exchange rate? The governments of the country can fix their own foreign exchange rate, and under the fixed exchange rate system, when the government increases the exchange rate, making the domestic currency cheaper, it is called a devaluation. This is true, this is true. So which is incorrect? Neither one nor two. Answer is D. If the government decreases, then it will become revaluation. And 69th question now. Consider the following statement regarding the policy changes made under the agriculture sector during the liberalization, privatization and globalization reforms in India. Increased in import duties on agriculture products. Wrong. Because liberalization, globalization, privatization says that you should decrease import duties, and removal of minimum support price. This is also wrong. Even now we are following this MSP program. What does it mean? This statement is wrong. Lifting of quantitative restrictions on agriculture products. This is true. So answer is B. Obviously when you eliminate 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, gone. Only B is answer. Which of the following? List 1, list 2. Land reforms, green revolution, import substitution and industrial resolution 1956. It is match the following. Okay. Land reforms. What is land reforms mean? Land reform means what? Tenancy reform, Sealing Act, Tenancy, Sealing Act, and regulation of rents. All these things comes under the land reform. So aim to increase the productivity of agriculture sector, replace and aim to promote, aim to shift the ownership of tillers. Yes, it is D. And green revolution, we all know, to increase the agriculture productivity. What is that? This one, A. Import substitution means what? Depending on more on foreign country products. Means what? Increasing imports, reducing dependency on domestic production. So it goes to B. DAB. So it is C, automatically comes to C. So answer is B. 71. Which of the following was what the reason for the introduction of structural reforms in China after 1949? China was under the compulsion of IMF fund to introduce economic reforms. This is wrong. It was India. When India approached in 1991, IMF kept some conditions. This is because China poverty was increasing, famines were increasing, unemployment was increasing. Maoist vision of economic development based on decentralization and self-sufficient had failed. Yes, true. So answer is B. Now next question 72nd. Consider the following statements regarding non-farm employment. What are the non-farm employment? Construction employment, employment under construction sector, or food processing, or exports and imports, logistics, etc. All come under the non-farm employment. Seasonal unemployment in agriculture can be tackled through non-farm employment opportunity. Obviously, when the seasonal employment is what? Now take sugarcane. Sugarcane is a seasonal agriculture crop. Okay, it is grown and harvested in out of 12 months. 7 months it will take for growing and harvesting. What farmers will do for another 5 months? Instead of making them to sit idle, you can provide employment in non-farm employment sectors. So option 1 is correct. And agro processing industry is an example of non-farm sector. Yes, true. So answer is C. So 73rd. Consider the following statement regarding infrastructure. It provides support services to primary, secondary, tertiary sector of economy. It is true. Why? Infrastructure means what? Power will come, irrigation will come, technology will come, roads will come, etc. So power is there, it will benefit manufacturing units. Irrigation benefits primary sector, technology will benefits all three sectors, roads will benefits all three sectors. So option 1 is correct. Economic infrastructure includes infrastructure related to energy, transportation, communication. Yes, true. And social infrastructure includes education, health, housing. True, because social and economic. And answer is D. Worker population ratio. Consider the following statements regarding worker population ratio. What is worker population ratio? If there are 1,000 persons in a village, among them how many people are working? Take example, 500 people are working, so 500 by 1000, so 1 by 2, 1 is to 2. Its population is higher in urban areas. Wrong, because we all know that agriculture is providing highest employment. Means what? More than 50% people are working in agriculture. So where is agriculture? Agriculture is not in urban areas, it is in rural areas. So answer is rural. So here urban area, it is wrong. So limited availability of resources are the reason for lower workforce participation in rural areas. No, it is actually urban areas. Limited availability of resources and lack of skilled and quality education, infrastructure to attract investments and establish industries, etc. are the reason for lower workforce participation rates in urban areas. And one more reason is, in urban areas people tend to study more, means they spend more time in the academics, means graduation, post graduation, PhD, all these things takes time, right? But in rural area it's not like that. After 10 they will go for work. So answer is A. No, answer is D. Both are wrong. So 75. Come to the 75 last question. Answer the following statements. Health expenditure directly increases the supply of healthy labor force. Health expenditure means what? Spending on infrastructure, on laboratories, and medicines that can be preventive and curative, and etc. On, you can even say, on human capital. Okay, so health expenditure directly increases the supply of healthy labor force, correct? Because it will increases the human capital productivity. And health expenditure includes the cost of preventive medicine and curative medicine only. Wrong. It increases infrastructure, laboratory capital, human capital development, salaries, whatever. So answer is A.